The training hall was old and formal. Polished wooden floors. Calligraphy on the walls. Ranks, belts, titles. Everyone in uniform. Everyone knew their place. Everyone except Bruce Lee. He walked in wearing a simple shirt and pant. No badge of rank, no special belt. To the men in that room, he looked small, unimportant, and disrespectful to their order. He had been invited out of politeness, not out of respect. At the front stood the old master. His name carried weight. He taught the same forms his teachers had taught him. His students copied every move exactly, never asking why. For him, skill meant keeping things the same. The past was the standard. He looked at Bruce for a long time, then spoke so the whole room could hear. "This is Bruce Lee," he said. He paused, letting people judge. "I've heard a lot about you. Fast hands, movie tricks, fancy moves." He tilted his head. "But what you do is not real fighting." People shifted in their seat. "You borrow from here and there," the master went on. "You mix styles. You break rules that exist for a reason. That makes you a performer, not a fighter." Then he said the line that turned the room against Bruce. "Without a system, you have nothing." Some people laughed. Some agreed. Some laughed just to stay on the safe side. Bruce didn't react. He didn't smile, argue, or explain. He just stood there. The laughter slowly died. The master raised an eyebrow. "Nothing to say?" Bruce met his eyes, calm and steady. "No." That answer confused them. The master smirked. "Then listen," he said. "What you practice would fail against real fighters, against discipline, against tradition. What lasts is structure. What lasts is a clear line of teaching. Making things up as you go only brings chaos." More nods around the room. Bruce still didn't move. Inside, though, he knew this scene well. His whole life had been spent pushing back against rooms like this and against people who thought truth was fixed and final. He thought of the long hours of training, the injuries, the pages of notes and crossed-out ideas, the many times he had questioned everything he was taught. He also knew something else. Talking would not change this room. Only action would. The master stepped back, sure of himself. "If you ever want to learn real combat," he said, "you can start here. From the beginning." That was when Bruce finally moved. Just one step forward. He spoke quietly, almost politely. "May I show you something?" The master hesitated for a moment, then agreed. "Very well. But be quick." Bruce nodded and calmly took off his shoes. The small sound of them touching the floor seemed to get everyone's attention. People leaned in. No one laughed now. He stood a few steps in front of the master. No formal stance, no pose they recognized. Just relaxed balance. "Go on," the master said, impatient. Bruce took his time. He didn't rush in. He breathed slowly and deeply, fully present, watching, listening. In a world where everyone wants to prove themselves fast, waiting looks weak. But Bruce was waiting on purpose. He wasn't nervous. He was paying attention. The master had seen many challengers over the years. Young men driven by ego, older men scared of fading. They all shared the same problem. They needed to win right away. Bruce didn't need anything. "Begin," the master said, waving his hand as if brushing aside a child. Bruce still didn't attack. He shifted his weight only a little, hardly visible. But in that tiny movement lived a lesson. Real power starts before the body moves. Intention comes first. The master frowned. "Is this part of your show?" "I'm listening," Bruce said. That word unsettled the room. Listening in a fight? But to Bruce, that was the smart way. An opponent reveals himself before he strikes, through breathing, posture, tension, impatience. The master stepped in, growing annoyed. "Enough. If you believe your way works, prove it." Bruce nodded once. What happened next was not dramatic. No big jump, no spinning kick, Nothing that looked like the movies. He stepped. His hand moved. Then stillness. In a blink, Bruce's open palm hovered an inch from the master's chest. Fingers relaxed. Arm lined up. Body grounded. Many people in the room didn't even see how he got there. One moment he was standing, the next he was right in front of the master. The master froze, not by choice, but because every part of him sensed danger. One more inch and he would be hit cleanly. Bruce didn't strike. He held his hand there, calm and in control. It was clear to everyone. He could have ended the exchange right there. This, Bruce said softly, eyes still on the master, is not an attack. It's an arrival. A quiet murmur went through the room. The master tried to move and realized he had leaned too far in, given up his balance, and opened himself up. Only when Bruce stepped back and lowered his hand did his body fully relax. Bruce spoke clearly, now to everyone. A system gives you fixed answers, he said. But life asks new questions all the time. The room went quiet again. The master's face turned red. You insult tradition, he said. You insult everything that came before you. I respect tradition, Bruce answered, but I don't worship it. Tradition should guide us, not trap us. He looked around the hall. Some heads lifted. Some eyes changed. If water never moves, it goes bad, he added. If it keeps moving, it stays fresh. The energy in the room shifted. Bruce bowed lightly. I came here to learn, he said. And today I did. No one clapped. No one joked. The silence felt heavy. The men in that hall were no longer just judging Bruce. They were, for the first time, judging themselves. The master stood there, not afraid, but shaken. Doubt had entered. He had built his life on the idea that mastery is passed down, that titles prove truth, that order equals wisdom. Yet in less than a minute, a man with no uniform had shaken all of that without shouting and without landing a single hit. The master straightened his robe, forcing himself back into his role. You speak well, he said carefully. But words and small displays are not real fighting. Real combat is pressure, pain, and consequences. Bruce nodded. Then let there be pressure. The room stirred. The master hadn't expected that. He had hoped the moment would end politely, his position unchanged. Instead, the students stepped back and formed a circle. No one announced rules. They weren't needed. The master took his formal stance, precise, sharp, exactly as taught for years. Every move showed discipline and tradition. Bruce stood opposite him with no fixed stance, just relaxed and ready. One student whispered, "He doesn't even look prepared." That was another lesson. People often confuse how readiness looks with what readiness is. The master attacked first. His strike was fast, direct, and backed by years of practice. It was meant to overwhelm before thought could catch up. Bruce didn't run from it. He moved into the line at just the right moment, not faster than the attack, but earlier than it. Timing over speed. Awareness over force. He shifted, redirected, and the master's power lost its path. The master stumbled and barely kept his balance. The room gasped. This was no longer theory. They were seeing it. Bruce stepped back and did not chase him. That was another lesson. The goal of high skill is choice, not domination. When you can finish something and choose not to, you are truly free. The master attacked again, this time with anger. Anger made him hit harder, but see less. His focus narrowed. His sense of timing slipped. Bruce stayed calm. A small parry. A light contact. Just enough for the master to feel the opening in his own body. He knew that if Bruce had used full force, he could be badly hurt. He stopped himself. No one cheered. There was nothing to celebrate. They had not watched a victory. They had watched an illusion fall apart. Bruce broke the silence. When you cling to a fixed system, he said, you end up protecting it, even when it stops helping you. He looked around the circle. But if you understand principles, you can let go of old ways without fear. He turned back to the master. You were right, Bruce said quietly. I don't have a system. He paused. I have understanding. That was the lesson that would stay with them the longest. Systems bring comfort, understanding brings freedom. Bruce bowed again, this time more deeply, not to the master's rank, but to him as a person. I'm not here to replace your way, he said. Only to remind you that truth doesn't belong only to the past. The master didn't answer. Some truths arrive too late for quick replies. Bruce put on his shoes. That simple act said more than any applause. He walked to the door. No one laughed. No one stopped him. He left them with something heavier than entertainment, a question about their own belief. Growth, he knew, begins the moment you stop defending who you used to be. Bruce didn't look back. He knew real insight doesn't wait around to be praised. It moves on and lets others deal with what they've seen. Outside, the air felt lighter. He breathed deeply, not in relief, but in acceptance. He understood something most people discover only late in life. When you challenge an established system, you won't just be questioned. You will be tested, mocked, resisted, and twisted. Not always because you are wrong, but because you are new, and what is new feels threatening to those who built their identity on being sure. That night stayed with him, not as a victory, but as clear proof he was on the right path. In the days that followed, stories traveled. Some said Bruce had been rude. Others said the master went easy on him. Some said nothing important had happened. Bruce ignored all of it. He no longer cared about winning debate. He cared about living closer to reality. Then came the quiet price. After moments like that, applause fades. Loneliness often follows. Being right can cost more than being wrong. Friends step away. Doors close. Invitations stop. Bruce accepted that cost. A weaker man might have softened his message to stay welcome in halls like that one. He might have told safer truths, just enough to be liked. Bruce chose another road. He chose to stand alone for a while. He trained even harder after that night, not to prove others wrong, but to clear any remaining doubt in himself. He questioned every technique, every belief, every habit. He wrote. He tested. He dropped what no longer worked, even if it had helped him before. He learned a hard rule. Loyalty to truth must come before loyalty to tradition, including your own past ways. He also saw that standing still rarely looks like failure. It often feels like comfort. Years later, when his ideas became popular, many people from that hall claimed they had always supported change. They said they had seen his value early on. Bruce didn't correct them. He had learned that wisdom doesn't waste energy fighting with rewritten memories. Instead, he built something new, not just a style, but a way of thinking. He taught his students to think for themselves, to question what they were taught without turning arrogant, to stay humble without shrinking. He warned them that certainty is tempting. The moment you believe you have arrived, you stop moving. And when you stop moving, decline begins. Take what helps you, he told them. Let go of what doesn't. Behind that simple line was the memory of that hall, the laughter, the doubt, and the silence. He also taught this. Your biggest opponents in life are rarely other people. Your real enemy is your refusal to change. Years later, when people spoke about Bruce Lee, they talked about his speed, power, and ideas. Few talked about what it cost him. But that room never left his mind. Because that night gave him his final lesson. The world usually doesn't welcome new truth. It laughs at it, calls it fake, and wants it to look like what it already knows. Bruce refused to bend himself into something familiar just to be accepted. He understood that being misunderstood is not a sign you are lost. It can be a sign you are ahead. After that, he stopped trying to be approved by systems that lived on repetition. He stopped explaining himself to people who only listened to defend their old views. He stopped shrinking his thinking to fit small rooms. He became something more powerful than a skilled fighter. He became truly independent. And real independence always worries those who gain power from blind obedience. The old master went back to teaching with his status still in place. Class went on. Forms were practiced. Titles were kept. On the surface, nothing changed. But inside, something had cracked. A question had entered the room, and questions do not leave easily. Some students stayed. Some quietly left. History rarely remembers the ones who stay comfortable. It remembers the ones who walk away. Bruce walked alone for a long time. Long enough to clear his mind. Long enough to drop illusions. Long enough to see that real mastery is not about piling on more, but about removing what is not needed. He once put it this way: learning adds, wisdom takes away. That taking away began in that hall. The laughter had been real. The rejection had been real. So was the clarity that followed. And here is the deepest lesson hidden in his story. When people laugh at you for speaking the truth, do not argue. Do not beg to be understood. Do not close your heart. Improve yourself until your life itself becomes the proof. Bruce Lee didn't beat that room. He outgrew it. That is why, decades later, his name is still alive, while many of the systems that mocked him remain stuck, teaching copies instead of understanding. The room laughed once. History did not.